I'm talking literally worldwide. Bien sûr راح نهضر عربية وانجلي. غنسيي غنسيي possible نتاعي اني I explain everything with my experience that I have already. Okay. Normalement ما راهوش عندكم حتى problem. You can use the chat anytime. I don't mind, and yeah, I would love you to be guys engaged في chat, of course. Well, I don't know مانيش عارف دوكا انا واش من audience if you actually into video games guys. هذه presentation ماشي غير للناس اللي they are into video games زعما they love video games only. Maybe this presentation will give you like a vision لا UI UX for video games, and you can make it like a career in the future. I don't know. Well, this is just an introduction. It's not gonna be زعما detailed. ما راهش حيكون فيها بزاف details. راح نهضروا على steps what you need to consider while making a UI UX for video games. Well, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Uqba Marat. I am a UI UX designer for video games in Finnic Games. I worked with some other studios just as a freelancer, and the developer as a solo indie game developer for Predusk, the game on Steam. You can check it on Steam, of course. So yeah, just I wanted to let you know that I have been just in the industry for like the last 5 to 6 years. I'm a beginner compared to other people, but I will try my best to give you what I learned from this industry. وش تقدروا وين تقدروا توصلوا بيها if you actually want that path. So, of course, and introduction, just what is UI and what is UX. إلى عندكم background in other fields that like websites or applications, UI UX, you already have an idea about UI UX for video games or UI UX in general. So UX is literally the skeleton of the screens or the UI the player that are gonna use. تما راح يكون literally الهيكل العظمي تاع السين. UX designers usually هما اللي راح يقرروا what's the size of the buttons, what والplacement تاعهم. After this, of course, I'm going in details a little bit for that. But yeah, in general, UX designers are going to be researchers and designing the wireframe and the user flow. And UI artists are going to be usually making the visuals, and they are always trying to make زعما الفيجوال زعما كي يرسموا ولا يديزاينيو الفيجوال. UI artists, they always try to make it like align actually well with the UX وما يفسدوش functionality تاع الجيم and the main menus and any UI in the game. Usually UI artists work with the art directors, and the UX designers or researcher work with game designers. Usually UI UX designer will do both in smaller teams, especially in mobile games or small indie studios. في small teams راح تكون انت اللي راح تخدم كلش، وراح نزيد نهضر واش تقدر تخدم كثر باسكو يو اي يو اكس راح يكون كاين فرق كبير بيناتهم كي تكون في bigger team and smaller team. And smaller teams, UI UX is, I mean, bigger teams, sorry, in AAA companies, especially زعما في big PC and console games, راح يكون كاين team كامل لل UI UX designers. So راح يكون كاين UX researchers, UX designers, UI and UI artists. And there is, of course, the lead. So it depends on the size of the team you're going to be working with. So now we will go to steps. What's the steps we need to go through when we are making a mobile game or PC game. هادو ستيبس راح يكونوا في البي سي ولا كونسول ولا موبايل. ما كاش فرق تقريبا. من بعد الطريقه كيفاش نمدوا الانفو للبلاير من بعد اللي تتبدل بصح هذو ستيبس اللي راح نفوتوا عليهم. راح يكونوا ليترلي لازمين من الاخر شغل لازماتك تفوت على ستيبس هذوم. فيرست درت بالبرسنتجز زعما 30% research 20% user flow and the wireframe and 30% add-in visuals. هذيك شغل just an estimation, it's not accurate. Why? Because it depends on some games and some genres. So there is genres in video games. I don't know if you play video games. Every game has a genre, right? واللي هي شغل نوعية اللعبة. للناس اللي جامي لعب دي جو كل جو عندها النوعية نتاعها كما نقولوا الجانرا نتاعها وعندها تارجت اودينس معين. بمعنى so the research step it's gonna literally change depends on you, depends on the UX designer or researcher. Parce que let's say you are in a position where you're gonna make a UI for a game that you never played or a genre you never played. Let's give an example. انت جامي لعبت FPS games and you're gonna make a UI for that game. So usually you're gonna take more time than the people who actually have an experience in that field and they actually played the game. So in research, what we do, we usually play video games a lot in that specific genre we're gonna make. Why? Because just understanding literally the user needs and understanding the target audience. Understanding the target audience in UI UX in video games is really important because راح تكون كاين a big difference between genres, and because there is games for casual people, there is games for hardcore players who have been playing the game since the same genre for like 10 years, so they actually understand a lot and they need more information and like in details. So yeah, it depends. So now depends actually on the genre and you as a person who play or don't play video games. Um, so yeah, researching is just understanding other games. Where literally you go to the people you're competing with, and you actually understand how they make their UI. And yeah, the next step is literally this step can take for the games that has like 3 years or 4 years of making. هذه step اللي راكم تشوفوا فيها هنا 2020 user flow and user wireframe, it can take literally a year because this is by the way, this whole thing here, research, user flow and wireframe, it's literally in the beginning the of the development. User flow. So after research, you go into user flow and actually making the path for the player, mapping user journey. And that's why I told you you need to play other games. And literally your target audience, just to understand literally how they jump from the main menu to the game. Because some games, like let's say a racing game racing game, so you literally, most people want to jump into the race or the word of the game, free roam, instantly. They don't want to just keep customizing a lot, even though they customize their cars. Plus, in single player games like, let's say, The Witcher or Elden Ring, you don't have anything in the menu mostly because you don't have anything to customize compared to PvP games, especially when there is skins a lot. So, mapping, this is what they consider while making the user flow. So, they want it to be easier accessible to everyone. And usually when we are making a user flow, sadly, we want people to stay in the game more often. Like we want them to be addicted, and they want it to be fluid. I don't want it to be responsiveness and addictive, sadly. So this is your mission as a UI UX designer, especially for video games, for mobile. I don't support that a lot, but mostly they want you to stay in the game more often, and they want it to be a good experience for you. Well, of course, we're not just talking about the main menu here, because sometimes the user flow is going for environment, which is the items that you have, skins, store, or the shop. You buy items in the game, and so yeah. Um, wireframes are actually literally making the skeleton for most scenes, and now here we are literally in the middle of, or let's say 30% of the development of the game. Mostly here we start testing, because wireframes are actually like just a functioning UI without art. So you actually can test the game with the user flow and wireframes. Well, wireframes, we make the buttons, considering a lot of things I'm going to talk about in the next steps. And wireframes is just literally saying to the artist, okay, you need to put the art here in the middle. And this is how the information are we going to give to the player in the side, and like here in the top left and top right. راح تكون تما هنا واير فريم راح يسيو بلي بوسيبل من بعد ما مش حيعاودوا يرجعوا له باسكو راهم يتستيوه. نقعدوا نتستيو فيه، واذا كاين any bugs we redesign in the wireframe, and after that we go to the visuals. Well, visuals depends on the art direction of the game. So this is why I said UI artists need to be working with art directors. So the UI, it depends on the art style of the game, the environment, and after that I'm gonna be talking a lot about that. But yeah, this part is usually in like just finishing and polishing the game, and we want the game to look good but functioning really well. And yeah, that's it. It's literally as simple as that. Is just adding visuals to the game and making it like appealing to the new to players, old or new. And mostly people judge visuals more often, and they don't judge the UX design, because mostly they don't understand the process. So this is the most important thing about UI UX and UI. If you do both, this is one of the most important things, which is user flow and wireframe and research. Depends on the art style, of course. And yeah, I just want to say that UI UX for video games, I love this skill. You know why? Because it's literally a combination between art and technical skill. It's literally a technical skill and um, artistic skill, if you love that. And ماشي لازماتك تكون ترسم. You do draw art to be a UI UX design, a UI designer, or an artist. Sometimes you just need to design. Mostly for mobile games we don't draw a lot, so yeah. But for other PC games, you actually draw everything from scratch. It's gonna take a lot of time. But yeah, it's a skill. If you are into only design and want to be in video games, UX is really a good path. But yeah, it's actually a needed skill in the industry. So yeah, I think I talked a lot in the beginning, but now we are going to actual stuff. So yeah, for every skill, there is a principle, core principle. So Um, so for the core principle of video games, I'm gonna be talking one by one. راح نهضر على كل حاجة وحدها. Uh, after this slide, of course, we have clarity and simplicity, consistency, feedback and responsiveness, and accessibility. And keep in mind, هادو الcore principles. ما يكزيستيوش غير هذوم. هذول most important to make the game usable, right? So not make the player complain about it, new or old players. So yeah, okay, we go and we start with simplicity. Clarity and simplicity is really important for video games because mostly this is we can see here the right side. If you played games, you know these games already. Um, Here you can we can see one of the most. If you don't play video games, this is one of the most popular games. One of course. Here is Elden Ring and The Witcher and Zelda. Um, you can see here these are all of them are main menus, and as I said before, for the main menus in video games, you usually want the player to jump into the game instantly. I don't want it to be really complex to the players. زعما ما تخليهاش كومبليكي المنيو نتاعك تاع literally المين منيو. For mobile games we call it landing page. ماذا بيك تكون سامبل، تكون ما تعميش، ما تكونش كيما نقولوا كومبليكسي بزاف على البلاير باش he actually jump into the game instantly, because this is a single player game and a story game. You usually don't do a lot in the main menu. Only sometimes there is like art book for the game, or of course the options. The options, you can access the options if you don't play games. The option of the game, you can access it even in game. So these are like one of the most important things. Make it simple and clear to the player. You don't want to make it complex. You don't, and plus you do not reinvent the wheel, please, for video games. UI UX designs for video games can be really creative compared to other fields. You can be creative, you can do a lot of art, but there is only one structure mostly, because you don't want, let's say I play a lot of single player games. I don't want to, when I jump into the game, I find it really complex, and the continue or the new game, if I never played the game before, I don't want it to be in the bottom or something like that. So yeah, clarity and simplicity is really important for video games, especially for main menus, and how you give the feedback or the info to the player. So yeah. So consistency. So this is an art thing. Consistency. Sorry, consistency is really important. As you can see here on the right, there is Cyberpunk, which is a sci-fi video game, and in the left here is Hades. And you can see, as you can see, both UI designs for these games are actually consistent and really fit the art style of the game. It's really hard to make that, to be honest, especially in a game like Hades. You know why? Because this is a complex game a little bit, and you want to make the same art style as like the environment, but at the same time you don't want it to be fade in into the main to the game. So this is really tricky here. تما قادر وين تكون انت you making the same art style اللي راهو كاين اكزيستي، بصح تقدر اليو اي نتاعك ما يكونش ستاند اوت، زعما ما يبانش للبلاير، وين راح تخليها really complex to the player and can't find any important buttons or any important information that you're given to the player. Some games do it, though. Some games do it. I just want to give you an example. I think you can see. Yeah. A game like Hearthstone. Hearthstone is a game, a card game. They always blend the UI of the game into the environment of the game. But this is literally rare situations where board games and card games are always like this. But you can't do that in other games because mostly you are moving. But because if it's a board game, you can actually make um, you can make the buttons in the environment of the game because the camera is not going to be moving. So yeah, this is as simple as that. um Let me go back. So yeah, doing this, you're not gonna be working alone if you're gonna be in a bigger studio. So this is you're not gonna be the one who's gonna decide what art style is gonna be. Of course, the art director of the game. But yeah, consistency here is really important. As you can see here in Cyberpunk, they always show you only the important information, like here where to go, what's the how much ammo do you have, what weapon do you have, and your health. Mostly this is so clean and really consistent with the environment or the theme of the game. But here is the tricky thing is when the art style is cartoony and the UI need to be really stand out and not fit in with the environment. The next step is feedback and responsiveness. This is one of the most well, most of them. Sorry for saying that again, but this is actually important too. And هذه البارتي تقدر تكون في بزاف امور ماشي غير الفيدباك like I show you here, not only when you die or you win, but mostly feedback, the responsiveness. هو وين someone die or someone win, they opened something, they killed someone in a game, or there is زعما كاين خطر راهو جايك. In this position, you as a UI UX designer for video games, it's your it's your mission literally to make it seamless and responsiveness to the player, that he actually can see or get rewarded and get satisfied. So wait a second. Here's another example in Overwatch. There is a lot of things I know in the screen, but here you can see the feedback, and this is literally a UI UX design, and you need to be working here with the game designer for showing the feedback. So here in the top right, you can see how the info is gonna pop up when you kill someone, and you give the player the icon here. Why? Because the player in PvP games is a different player from a single player game. كي تكون في PvP game, which is an online game, player versus player, you're gonna be like really focused on that game, and you can't be chill mostly. So the player, if we remove this and we keep only the feedback out there, they don't know if they actually killed or not, because we as people we are always focusing on the middle of the screen when we are playing PvP game, of course, because you're waiting for the enemy to come. But in a single player game, you can just show them when they die, or there is let's say in an RTS game, which is a strategy game, when there is like someone who raided you or attacked you, there is you give them a pop-up notification with a sound. So this is actually needed for video games. Just give the player that the game is polished. By the way, if the game is really actually responsive, if you can see here in the example, this is Dishonored 2. This is just the options in the game, and as you can see, there is VFX art and there is an animation and UI UX designers. So in this position here, you can see the game is actually polished and gives the player a good, like a feeling of a good product. They actually bought something they are interested in, and it's not bad quality. So it can give you the feeling of polish. It gives the player that gives them instant notification or reward, sense of reward. We can see that in loot boxes too, or every mobile game when you play. Literally, when you come back to the play, there is like daily rewards. You just give them the gifts, and they are gonna be actually addicted to that game more often if you do that. So yeah, accessibility. Okay, accessibility is something that we don't usually feel, um, especially on other things. I'm not talking about only different languages, but because we are not the target audience for that. But as Algerians, we speak Arabic. Accessibility is really important for us because, of course, when you make and keep in mind as a UI UX designer, you have a role in that when the language is changed. So sometimes there is bigger words in different languages. So if you make your button really small, uh, and the game is just based in English, and when you want to translate the game into another languages, for, let's say for example Arabic or Chinese, which is really harder, so you maybe you will have like bugs there. So you need to make sure the different and consider the different languages. It actually gives your game more access to people. Another thing, making a game accessible like to people who play only with controller, right? The moment you consider controller, you consider people with disabilities. So this is actually a good thing. When you make a game, always try to make sure that your game supports a controller, because at this point you give a lot of people with disabilities a chance to play the game. Other thing is colorblind too. So colorblind maybe it's just for the colors, but it's really important. So you need to make sure that your UI fits really well with the colorblind thing. So yeah, after the core principles, we're gonna be talking about the difference between mobile and PC. And before that, I know people who actually don't not into making video games, but making applications. Before talking about this, I just want to talk about there is a lot of um, things you need to learn for video games just to make educational apps. For an example, Duolingo and Kahoot are actually, I think, Kahoot made by Unity, and learning and understanding UI UX for video games and achievements and rewards will actually help you making other educational apps, which actually gives the, let's say when we are using Duolingo, I'm sure most of you did. They actually, well, they call it gamification. They actually give you the sense of a game. It's like you are playing a game, but you are learning at the same time. So this is like little UI UX for video games, like given rewards every day, given like notification that, oh, you are really close to that point, and everything. But yeah, making mobile and versus PC UI UX, it's really kind of different. The steps I told you guys are actually the same. نفس الستيب تفوتوا عليهم كي تكونوا تخدموا في um, UI UX for video games. But the problem here is the target audience. كي تكونوا تخدموا على mobile game or a PC game, for a mobile game you are literally working with someone who is laying down, راهو راقد ومتكي ويخدم في التليفون. Smaller screens, and sometimes they are actually in a doctor appointment, let's say, ولا راهم يستنى في صاحبه ولا, and it's just playing. But the difference here, mobile and PC and console players, راح يقدر يريح في البي سي ويقدر راك تخدم مع انسان when literally he's just sitting on PC and um, focusing on the game for more than an hour. So this is a huge difference between audiences. Especially, I give an example here for an Apex Legend. I know because they actually made another version for mobile. As you can see here, because of the smaller scenes, smaller sizes of the screens. Mostly, you're not gonna give him uh, smaller buttons because, of course, the size of the phone and the vision. So usually in PC, we give them more complex information and more complex UI here. This is a HUD. It's called the HUD in a video game, where you're actually talking to, literally working with a dedicated player who maybe doesn't have a life. But yeah, this is a PC player, so it's actually different. There is a huge difference between the audiences. For mobile, by the way, it depends on the genre in the game again. So if you're like actually making hyper casual game, you usually don't give them a lot of information. It's just want to play the game, and mostly it's just tapping the screen. But for a game like this in a mobile, you usually try to make it like usable as much as possible because of the complex of the game mechanic. That's the problem here. So yeah, if you have any questions after that for mobile games, I'm happy to answer any. Okay. So what's the tools and softwares we need? So there is tools that are actually really needed, or you have to you have to understand them at least. So at least for me, planning and designing, you can design and plan in both these apps, which is Figma and Adobe Illustrator. So for Figma and Adobe Illustrator, you can usually make the wireframes and user flow. And you can actually prototype in Figma like you do in websites and applications. And Illustrator, you can go and make literally a mobile game UI because of the vector art style. Why I added the drawing thing? Because in PC and console games, they usually use Photoshop, Krita for free, I guess, and Clip Studio. I think it's paid. For drawing, we usually make the texture. We draw the texture for buttons and everything. And we usually make the, let's say, call to action buttons like buy and play or anything like this that actually important buttons. We make them with these kind of softwares. But you actually can make a full UI UX design for a mobile game with just Adobe Illustrator. Plus, you can do that same thing with Figma, but for a PC game, you usually need to draw. Depends on the genre, of course. Usually, they don't use Figma for PC games, but it's really important for user flow, prototyping, and wireframes in Figma. So Figma is an actual good software to learn because you actually will need it with a lot of fields, not only UI UX. To be honest, just design in general. So it's really a good software. Moving to a good to have, but in my in my opinion, some of them are actually necessary if you want to jump into games. Well, first are game engines. Depends on the games you want to make, and depends on the studio needs. Because some studios want you to learn or good to have Unity or Unreal or Godot, and depends on the game genre they're gonna make. Because usually mobile games are gonna be made by Unity. More realistic games are gonna be made with Unreal Engine. Keep in mind, you don't need to learn coding or doing a lot of things in the game engine. You just need to know how to imply and just put literally your UI and test it in the game engine, and maybe the animation if you can do that in the engine like Unity. So that will actually gives you a plus when you apply for a job, when you know and understand the engine really well. Just I want you to understand the UI of that engine, and just I don't want you to make games, but at least implement and make VFX or UI animation in that engine if you can, This is just a plus, but mostly needed for bigger studios. You usually need to know at least Unity or Unreal Engine because they are needed. عندهم بزاف الطلب. Other one is actually animation and VFX. So for mobile and indie game studios, smaller indie game studios, they use Spine program just to make an animation. It's really good because when you use the animation for Unity راح تخدم باليونيتي animation راح تنقص البرفورمانس when you usually use PSD files from Photoshop, so it's gonna be really not زعما optimized for the game. ماذا بيك تخدم Spine if you are going for a mobile game especially. VFX is just sometimes not needed, but you can use, and it's really a plus if you already know After Effects. It's really good to show the team that this is how I want my UI to be, and when they win, when they lose, when they want something like a reward or something, they bought an item in a game. It's really good to have um, a VFX skill, even though I don't have it. But yeah, you actually can survive without it. But it's really good to have. Okay, so I'm going for common challenges and solutions while making when you make a UI art for a game and UI design. Here's the worst example. If you know that, you're probably 30 years old, and I don't think someone is know this. Well, maybe you know it, but you never played it. I don't know, but this is World of Warcraft, one of the most hardcore video games of all time. Literally, the people who played this game never went outside. They actually, as you can see here in the screen, it's actually really complex and it's not good for onboarding. So accessibility consideration for um, diverse players. And here we cannot talk about onboarding, right? Onboarding is literally شغل راك تبريزونتي في جو صعيبه على ناس جدد في الجونرا هذه، بصح راك حاب انت literally توصل الفكره بابسط طريقه. That's it. This is literally it. So the UI, as you can see in the World of Warcraft, is really complex. As a player, even though as a player, I don't think this is going to be a really good idea to just play this game. Just seeing this will not help me. So, in the same genre, same kind of the game, here is Lost Ark and here is New World. They are actually making it. Wait. So they're actually make it easier for new players to understand the UI here. راح تلقاها أسهل to understand what's going on compared to this, a game where it's actually published in early 2000s, compared to a game where it's like 2020s. So yeah, considering new players is an actual and important thing. Jump into another thing, which is balancing aesthetics with functionality. Here is to one of the most popular games for FPS, PvP games, Valorant and CS2. As you can see here, it's literally they are balancing between the aesthetics. When I say aesthetics, like the art of the game, sometimes good art does not function well. That's the big, actually really big. And sorry guys, I couldn't even have like a good example for a bad functionality with good aesthetics. Mostly games اللي خرجوا البديهم بعد يديروا لهم ابديتس دي ميزاجور تما من بعد سي بون راح literally يتعدلوا مع الوقت باسكو الفيدباك تاع البلايرز they will say it's not functional. So I will give you a good example. Let's say a good mobile game with a good art, but when you go to a landing page, when you open a game, you can find like the play button is gonna be in the top and really far from your thumb. بعيدة بزاف على سمك. تما هنا تعرف باللي bad functioning with good aesthetics doesn't mean it's good. But here in Valorant and CS, it's one of the best literally functioning because it's literally it fits the theme of the game, plus it's functioning really well. Okay, yeah. So considering sizes of screens when you make a video game UI UX. Um, and this is why I told you it's really good to learn an engine for a video game, because mostly when you are literally using that engine, let's say an example في Unity راح تلقى an option you don't need to be a programmer, just scale with size, which will help you test your UI UX for video game. Resources while you are researching for any information about the game, and learning, of course. You can find a lot of case studies in this kind of websites. Dribble and ArtStation usually you will find people's work. راح تلقى الخدمة تاع الناس. Plus, ArtStation is the best place for video games because راك حتلقى triple A companies work, the indie game, popular indie games like Expedition. There is and Cuphead, Hollow Knight, Silk Song, any art for a game UI ولا art راح تلقى في ArtStation. Good to learn and understand more UI. Game UI database is um, literally the biggest source for game UI in the world. It has عنده Guinness record. And the interface in game, you can actually see any interface in a video game you want to understand and see how they made it. After that, questions. I don't know if you have any questions. I don't know if I was إن شاء الله بالي إذا كنت complex for you guys, but yeah. سمحوا لي هدرت بزاف اونجلي. I don't know why. But yeah, I have other things اللي راح نهضر عليهم دوكا ليه for a little bit. Maybe if you have a question, put it in chat. What's the future for this? شنو هو الفيتشر تاع السكيل تاع UI UX for video games? Keep in mind, nowadays, literally, there is a lot of money in the industry, like any field. وشفنا مؤخرا باللي Saudi Arabia, Emirates, they are investing a lot of money on video games, and they need UI UX designers too for video games, and programmers, artists, musicians. Saudi Arabia put like $38 billion in the industry, and if you want to consider, if you want to know what's the salary expectations outside Algeria, um, mostly for juniors with 0 to 2 years of experience, they get like $35,000 to $60,000 a year. They go into mid-range 60 to 95, and the principals or leaders or directors, they can get like 130 to $200,000, which is literally after like 20 years of experience. No, I mean, you are like any field. Video games are actually profitable, but not gonna say scary, but actually risky a little bit. باسكو مانيش حاب شغل نجي ونقول لكم حنبيع لكم دريم, you know. This is just this is what I know from people that I talk to from the industry and AAA companies. It's really hard to jump in easily and get a job in the industry, to be honest with you. زعما صعيبه بزاف انك تدخل one maybe 1 month 3 months راح نتعلم وندخل. Networking is a must, like any field. كيما اي field you need to network, but just want you to keep in mind that jumping into the industry, the gaming industry, especially if you love it's possible. There is a lot of Algerians who actually work in the industry and they make a lot of money. Plus, just want to make sure and know freelancing in that field is good too. And remote jobs راح يكونوا كثار باسكو American politics is a little bit going down, and they don't want new people to come, I mean, go to America to work there because they're gonna be paying a lot for them. So the remote jobs, I'm talking about any industry now. The remote jobs راح يكونوا أكثر بارابور لعوام اللي فاتوا. So I think working a remote job in this field is possible while making your portfolio. Plus, تخدم على portfolio is a must. You need that. You can use for now just ArtStation, and yeah, you can just share your work in ArtStation and be really active in LinkedIn and network with people. It's not impossible to work in your best favorite genre or a game, to be honest with you. It is actually possible, but you just need to put the dedication, and you need to be consistent a little bit. But yeah, UI UX design for video games is really worth it, to be honest. Adnan, how do you find the right balance between making a fun, engaging game, making sure it doesn't become addictive or harmful to players? That's actually a great question. To be honest with you, the problem here is for video games, you want people to be addicted to your game, and depends on the content for your game. Sadly, you usually want them to stay in the game. They want them to play more. Harmful to players. This is like, I feel like هذيك شغل حاجة اللي تبقى مسؤولية البلاير at this point. Plus, while making video games, you always زعما there is an age gap اللي ما نحترموش في الجزائر, which is weird. So there is games for younger people and there is games for older people. So actually, an adult, you always expect an adult to be managing his time, and yeah, all this just to Adnan is literally وش هدرت ذوق كامل to make it easier for the player to stay in the game. But I don't know if you consider it harmful to the player. Well, sometimes it is if it's addictive to the player, to be honest with you. So yeah. How to get started in UI UX video games, Bilal? Um, yeah, I mean that's the intro. That's what I was talking about. Thank you for the question. Okay, let's say you know a lot of things about video games and principles, and you know how to design. As I said, start working um, for personal projects um, for free. You can work with your friends, and the first steps you need to be are making a good portfolio. كنهضر على portfolio you need to make sure to show all the steps you made while making this UI for video games. I'll give you an example. Let's say you are making a screen from a shop in a game or an inventory or anything. So you need to make sure that you show the wireframe for that scene. You need to make sure to show the sketches and brainstorming behind that and giving like a full case study about it. What did you think while making this? What target audience? What genre? What is this for? Why I designed this? What I want to achieve by this? So yeah, this is another thing, and this is more complex, but usually you need to make a good portfolio and work with people that you know or people in the industry. Don't be shy to reach to anyone, especially هنا في الجزائر. باش نقول لكم بلي there is like for now I know three studios اللي you get paid while working with them in the gaming industry. زوج موبيل ووحده بي سي. even though we don't have the best quality هنا ما عندناش زعما الكاليتي المليحه بزاف في الجزائر مما رانا it's going really well كي نكومباريوها بالعوام اللي فاتوا في الاندستري in Algeria باسكو انا واحد ما كنتش عارف بلي existiو game studios in like last 2 years but yeah I hope Bilal I answered your question um Adnan I'm sorry, but actually, games sometimes be harmful. But, and this is why I said, uh, have a skill to UI UX for video games. You can use it in way better places. The worst thing that, of course, guys, the worst thing you can put in this skill is to work with gambling websites, and please don't do that. They pay a lot. Do not do it. Um, please consider not do that because you actually started harming people while making for making games, gambling games, especially even like video games sometimes. And this is the dark side of it. Sometimes games has gambling, but not like gambling websites and games because please avoid that. But you can put it in an educational video games or any video game you want, of course. So yeah, inshallah ما تعبتكمش معايا. If any questions, I am here to answer. But if there is any other question, if there is no questions, that's fine. So yeah, تبالي formative games could be addictive in a good way, like اللي فيه story, to be honest. And I don't know, but my friend used to tell me that this. So yeah, okay. Look, guys, I'm not saying video games are bad. I am a video. I played video games since I was young. Uh, تعلمت l'anglais بهم. I had new friends worldwide. I have a job in the industry now. I I have a living because of video games. Video games are actually cool. Single player games can be really single player games can be an actual movie you're literally playing in. But I didn't say there, but yeah, I know. But actually, when I said addictive, mostly I don't agree with that. Mobile games do that. They want you to spend more money in the game because the game is free. Well, most free games, you are the product, like any product. If it's free, if you are the product, that's normal. But yeah, uh, for mobile games, they usually want you to jump into ads mostly, buy items. There is pay to win. Pay to win is literally when you buy an item and you win instantly. Gotcha addiction for childish friend. Yeah, so gotcha games, which is like I will give an example. Genshin Impact, if anyone knows that. It has a lot of gambling addiction to it. But yeah, this is fairly depends on the mobile the game designer. ما راكمش انتم راح ديروا كلش. مي تسيولي لكم باش الجيم تكون engaging, fun, simple to understand, accessible to everyone. And yeah, this is the point of this. And this is why I focused on PC games because they usually give you the best experience out there. But mobile games can be really fun, can be actually good, but sometimes they want you to stay in the game more often. And yeah, that's normal, of course. You want people to stay in your products. Yeah. Do you think starting with visual novel is a good introduction to game UI UX? Muhammad, actually, um, visual novels are actually a UI UX, literally, and it's actually a good start, but it's one of the hardest, to be honest with you. Depends. Look, Muhammad, depends on the person. Maybe someone here will be really زعما راح يكون رايح يخدم على جونرا اللي هو يفهمها اكثر let's say FPS or RPG or something like. If you actually understand that love visual novels, you can do the best. But visual novels are actually really good idea to do because they're actually UI UX. They are the UI UX. They are mostly 2D art. They are not 3D if you don't know 3D. Well, you don't need a 3D, by the way, as a UI UX. Some studios, they want you to do everything. But yeah, keep in mind these UI UX designers, sometimes you do a lot outside your profession because of um, because they don't have the budget to hire other people. So you need to make a lot of things in a smaller studios. But yeah, if you know, you know. Yeah, gacha games are crazy. But yeah, I will give you an example. If you know Persona, Persona is have the one of the best UI UX designs. You can learn from it a lot. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. It was fun for me, to be honest. And again, if you have any questions, I don't mind. I can stay here for for longer, but if you actually get what you wanted from that, I'm happy. And keep in mind, thank you so much. Welcome, you're welcome, guys. Thank you so much for a nice person. Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. But yeah, so actually, well, for mobile games, keep in mind it's. I didn't talk a lot about mobile games. Okay, so if someday, if you want another presentation about video games for mobile, I don't know if you're gonna like it, but yeah, I will do it. Or part two for UI UX for video games or game development in general. So yeah, all this information I give are from my experience when I was making my game alone, publishing it alone, you working with other studios and meeting people from the industry